Hello all, hope you're doing well. I'm doing fantastic, thank you for asking. If you guys have seen my other videos, you would have known that I had to leave Australia because my visa got rejected. I feel like there was a lot of confusion surrounding why that happened and what happened before and after that, as well as what's happening now. So today I'm just going to take you through the whole thing, start to finish. I promise not all of my videos are going to be about deportation because let's hope that doesn't happen again, but either way, I'm happy you're here. Let's get into it. So I graduated uni not too long ago, and previously I was on a student visa. I knew I had to apply for another visa once my student visa ran out, and one of the requirements for that visa was to complete a standardized English test. This was also a requirement for my student visa way back in 2020 when I was applying then. And long story short, I didn't initially take the test, but there were reasons for this. So the first reason was because I didn't actually have to do an English test for my student visa. Don't take anything that I'm saying about these visas as like reliable information that you should run off on, because things always change. Literally, like as I was deported, some of the rules had changed. So don't take what I'm saying now and run with it. I'm just telling you my experience and my story. So for the student visa, they also required a standardized English test. There was an option to disregard the English test if you could prove that you have previously learned English and that you're a native speaker and that you can speak English well. I'm clearly a native speaker. That's been my first language since forever. So I basically submitted some information saying that I've taken classes in solely English and submitted that when I was applying in 2020, and that all got approved and that was fine. So I basically did the same thing for this new visa where I proved that I was only taking English courses in uni and that I'm a native speaker, and I basically sent all of that information through. Another reason that I didn't do the English test was because it costs $450, which I thought I was saving money by not doing it and by submitting all this other stuff. It also takes 3 hours to complete, sometimes more depending on where you do it. So I thought I was saving both money and time by not doing the test, because previously you could just waive the option to do the English test. So once I submitted my application with proof that I had studied English for the past 3 years at uni and I studied it in high school and all that stuff, I waited around 2 months to find out that I got rejected. I also found out that I got rejected the day before I was leaving to Singapore. And I was leaving to Singapore because I had to get tooth surgery. That's a whole other story that you guys will eventually see if you want to see that. I don't know if you want to, but you will. So I was literally about to hop on my plane to Singapore and then found out that I got rejected, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what do I do? So I find out the day before and I'm like, you know what, it's okay, I'll be back in like a week or two. I think I was gone for a week and a half or something. So since I found out the day before I was leaving, I couldn't really do much about the situation. It's not like I could take the English test that same day. So the most I could really do was just apply for a bridging visa and book an English test for when I come back. So I did exactly that. I booked my test for a couple days after I got back, and while I was in Singapore for surgery, I was studying for this English test. Even though, you know, I speak English, but I was stressed about it. I was like, yeah, I want to pass, obviously. That would be wild if I didn't pass. I wanted to study for it so that I would definitely not get deported. So I thought. Once I came back from Singapore and sat and did my English test and got my results, I immediately went onto the immigration website and tried to resubmit my application. However, it kept showing me this error message that said you're unable to continue with your application for a few reasons. And the reasons were like, you've either been rejected or you haven't fulfilled your requirements or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, I've just filled my requirements, so why can't I just reapply? I don't understand. And I kept trying different ways to reapply and like start a new application, all that kind of stuff. Nothing was working. So that's when I started to panic. I call up my parents and I'm explaining the situation to them, and they're basically telling me that I have to go see an immigration lawyer, because if the system's not letting me override this error, then obviously there's not much I can do on my end. I also have a friend who is becoming a lawyer, so I called her up and I was, in tears, like asking her what I should do. She was basically saying the exact same thing. She said, you should probably see an immigration lawyer, they can probably help you out, but she did warn me to be prepared to leave the country. So that was a bit scary. So I find an immigration lawyer, I rush down there, I meet her at her office, and we're having a bit of a chat. I'm explaining my whole situation, and the conclusion is, surprise, surprise, I have to leave the country. So all of this went down on the 12th of October. I think my visa expired on the 17th of October, so I left the country on the 16th. So technically speaking, I didn't get deported. I wasn't going to let that happen, obviously. But if I had stayed in the country for 1 day longer, I would have been banned to come back for 5 years. I'm pretty sure that was the rule. They would have come knocking on my door, honestly. They would have been like, get out of here. So I obviously wasn't going to let that happen, knowing the situation. So I left on the 16th. And that's where we kind of started this whole journey. You know what? I'll just start with the fact, plain and simple. I'm getting deported tomorrow. Yeah. So the majority of my time away was spent in Japan. The timing of all this was also a little bit chaotic because my parents were relocating from Singapore to Japan that month. So they were super busy with moving and relocating and doing all that kind of stuff, which I guess was kind of good that I was there because I could help them here and there, but it was a little chaotic. Their house is also up in the mountains, which is a huge change from the city life in Singapore. We spent quite a lot of time up there, and besides the fact that it was freezing cold, it was a really peaceful place to just sit with my thoughts and reflect. Honestly, I definitely indulged in a fair few midday walks and midday drives just to clear my head. And I mean, that landscape to have as a backdrop is so nice. It was really, really beautiful. I think the worst part about the deportation was the feeling of being uprooted and just completely unsettled. There was no certainty in what the future would look like in that moment. Oh. Sorry guys, my camera just went flying off the couch and Zella got a bit spooked, so now she's sitting on me. Anyway, where was I? I wasn't sure when my visa would be approved or if it was even going to be approved. And on top of that, this one was in Australia. That was genuinely the worst part of this whole thing, was just not being able to be with my dog and not being able to explain like what's going on and just up and leaving for so long. I'm so incredibly grateful to my friends who looked after her while I was away. I genuinely don't know what we would have done without them. She ended up staying with a few of my friends while I was away because obviously I was gone for so long. Yeah, I'm just so grateful that, they were willing to look after her and they did such a good job of looking after her too. But yeah, just super grateful that my friends were so awesome about it and were willing to look after her during such a stressful time. But through a lot of the bad and anxiety-ridden situations, there were definitely a few real silver linings that came out of the deportation. First and foremost, I feel so lucky to have spent that amount of time with my grandparents. As someone in their 20s, I don't think I'll ever get that kind of quality time with my grandparents. They're obviously getting older and they live in a completely different country than I do, so being able to spend 3 months with them is genuinely such a blessing in disguise. I learned so much from just our day-to-day conversations with them. I feel like they have so much wisdom to pass on all the time, and I got to experience that like every day, which was really, really nice, especially for that time in my life. I feel like I was in need of a lot of wisdom and I received it, which is great. And if you guys have seen my second video on this channel, you would have seen that I went on a road trip with my grandparents and their friends. Again, such a unique bonding experience that I would have never had the opportunity to do if I didn't get deported. Another silver lining was that I had a lot of time to just think and to journal, which is always good, I think, for your mental health. I think it's always good to write down how you're feeling, but I just had a lot of time to do that, so I did a lot of it. I worked out that while I was away, I wrote a total of 63 pages. I was full on writing a novel out here. For what reason, I do not know, but I think that much journaling was genuinely such an important part of just keeping my sanity, preventing me from losing my marbles any more than I had already. And I think it's also nice to be able to have those things written down so that now when I'm in a completely different headspace, I can go back and read how I was feeling. I can kind of see how I was dealing with those big problems and how that might help me in my life today. Another enormous silver lining with this whole deportation spiel was that I got to go to New York. If you guys watched my last video, you would have seen that I went to visit my sister in New York. That was genuinely one of the best trips ever. If you guys want to see what I got up to in New York, then make sure to check out that video. But yeah, I would have never gone to New York, or at least I wouldn't have gone in the near future if I hadn't gotten deported. So throughout the 3 months away, I was constantly asking my lawyer to check for updates and see if there was any progress on my visa. I was always given a similar response, which was, we're doing everything we can. There's not much else you can do, but wait. And let me tell you, waiting is very difficult when your life feels like it's been thrown upside down. After many sleepless nights, my birthday rolled around. I didn't think that I would be spending it in Japan, but you know, there's worse places that I could have been. I must say, it wasn't the best birthday I've ever had, obviously, and that was not anyone's fault. It's just, you know, I was deported. I was pretty sad. I ended up spending my birthday with my family. They took me out to a lovely lunch. I could tell that everyone was trying to cheer me up, which I really appreciated. I was really trying to be positive as well, but it was proving difficult given the circumstances. But when I got back home, I went to check my email, and lo and behold, I get my visa approval. This was genuinely like the best birthday present I've ever gotten in my life. Everyone was super happy for me, just like tears of joy all around the room. After a long 94 days, I finally had some clarity. So just as a side note, it's been a family tradition where every New Year's that we spend with our grandparents, my sister and I will do some calligraphy for the new year. My grandpa was actually a calligraphy teacher, so every year we pick a word that's meaningful to us and he helps us practice, and we use his calligraphy set to write the word out on the official calligraphy paper. And in the past, I used to always just write like my pets' names. Best believe last year it was Zella. It was. But this year I thought I would switch it up. So this year's word was medio. And medio actually means clarity, which I was definitely in need of. And then lo and behold, like 2 weeks later, I got my clarity and I got my visa approved. So that brings us to January 22nd when I flew back and was officially imported back into Australia. It has been a long and stressful and eventful 3 months. I've been back for a couple months now, and it's been really good to just settle back in, spend time with the dog. When I came back, the first thing I did was take Zella on a little hike, just made sure we had a really good day together, because I know she must have missed, I don't know, going on hikes and doing all that stuff that we normally do. This whole experience has definitely taught me a lot about patience, resilience, checking your visa requirements. Obviously, this is not like a glorifying story about this whole thing. It was actually genuinely one of the most stressful things I've ever lived through. And I don't wish it upon anyone, but you know, learn from me. Make sure you're reading your visa requirements carefully. I don't know, also whether it's expected or not, things happen in life and you just gotta kind of roll with the punches. Even though it's difficult, it's gotta be done, and try to keep a positive attitude throughout, which can be difficult. I do understand that, but if anyone is going through hardship, whether that be deportation, I really hope it's not. Guys, I really hope none of you are deported. But you know, anything, just know that you come out better on the other side. Regardless, always. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. We have some exciting stuff coming up. Obviously not about deportation, because that's not happening again, please. If you guys are new here, I'm so happy that you're here. Hey. And if you're coming back, I'm so happy that you're here as well. Hey! Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this clarified some things. Let me know if you guys still have some questions or comments or concerns. I'd love to know. But this will be the end of the deportation diaries. This is the finale. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been semi-entertaining so far. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Ayy, I got the recipe, never gonna let any out get the best of me. Thought it was distance, but haters is next to me.